Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you, UNDP, Eugene and the staff and the AU for organizing this. As we wind up, Helen Clark has put the basis, the foundations on the 4 key issues of challenge that we are facing: enhancing equity, inequity, participatory approach to development, environmental degradation, and managing democratic change. In our discussion, I think it's very important to start with the term of being cautious. I think President Obasanjo told us being cautious. It's a huge point. We have to be cautious when we are celebrating the rise of Africa. We have to be cautious when we are in a celebration mood, because we have to be realistic. That's what we mean by cautious. First, we have a lot of poverty in Africa. No matter how much we grew, no matter how much we narrowly reduce poverty, we have a lot of poverty. We have a lot of democratic deficit in Africa and governance deficit in Africa. We have a lot of conflict and destabilization in Africa. In Greater Lakes area, in Mali and surrounding, in Guinea-Bissau, in a couple of a large number of countries, we still have resurgence, conflict, and destabilization and governance deficit. We also have the impact of the changing global economy. Any change that have significant impact, we have to cautiously and realistically plan. We have to also be careful because the commodity price has already started going down, and therefore, what is the impact it's going to have? So generally, the first cautious is, when we portray Africa being negatively portrayed and we are raising out and trying to fight the negativity, we have to be very careful. We have not to be also to lose reality and be over enthusiastic and lose the car. The second area of cautious is also on the rise of the South is Brazil, the BRICS, China, India, they also have on their way and their agenda. So we have to ask, how do they manage it? We have to ask ourselves, what do we have, what do we don't have? We can't keep on asking for only for their support, but we have to be able also to look into ourselves and change whatever we change. We have to avoid, again, being market and price takers. We have to avoid being raw material suppliers. We have to learn how to manage our natural resources. So how did they manage? The Chinese went through Chinese Revolution, variety of things. The Brazilians went through their own way, particularly after Lula came to power, in a very democratic transition, a substantive concern and rapid eradication of poverty. The only country I saw a poverty eradication ministry, not a poverty alleviation, a poverty eradication ministry, with a supply and logical support to the rural areas, to single women producers, is in Brazil. So we have to look into this and see what is it that we can take from it. The other cautions that we need to take is also the governance issue. In Africa, we have seen several times, we don't talk about it. We don't have democratic governments in most of the countries. In this mood of celebration, we have a lot of non-democratic governments in Africa. So we have to accept that reality. We can't change this overnight, but what are the process of increasing democratization? What are the process of people participatory approach to address the equity issue, to address the governance issue? 2 former presidents are here who walked out of power democratically. How many of African presidents are there now for more than 20, 30, 25, 6 years? So this, in the majority of the cases. Therefore, we have to look into them very quickly. The fourth area of caution is, we talk about market versus private sector, state versus private sector, external environment, all this. We have to have the ability to regulate and understand and build our capacity to effectively manage. The 13 countries in the globe that has grown and took off without the prescription of the Washington Consensus, including Brazil, China, Vietnam, Indonesia, Singapore, South Korea, and the others, are basically by distinguishing the difference between state and private sector, making sure the state is productive, not wasteful, but the private sector is effectively and efficiently supported, making sure that some of the corrupt activities are in control. We cannot totally, completely control corruption, it's in human nature, but we can minimize corruption and be realistic. And these are the 3 areas of caution. Now, after that, we go to the basic issues of the 4 areas from the consensus that we reach. The first area is we need structural transformation to make sure the continent, each country is growing. The second area is we need innovative technical moves in our countries, particularly in resource and macroeconomic and financial management. We need human development, and we need finance via China, via Bretton Woods institution, via Scandinavian countries, but we have to diversify and carefully and effectively negotiate and promote our national interest and make sure that we get there. So finally then, that means we have to have an inclusive and sustainable growth, green sustainable growth. Second, we have to have agricultural development and food security and nutrition security. Agriculture is the basis for transformation, but based on this agriculture, we have to have industrialization and value added to our system, which creates a lot of employment to our youth. Then we have to have infrastructure development. By infrastructure, we mean roads, energy. That means electric energy, hydro energy, gas energy, solar energy, but whichever available, whichever we have a comparative advantage, we have to work on it. And finally, of course, financing for development. I think with that, I conclude that the panelists have covered quite a bit, and each of us can take our piece and try to develop it. Thank you very much.